Hello, I'm Thomas Vinterberg. I'm a director coming out of Denmark, visiting Paris with my new film Kursk, or Kursk, however you want to pronounce it. Festen, I think about my friends. This was all populated by my friends. All the actors were my friends. I think about my youth and the stressful experience of making this movie. Then I think about Cannes, a standing ovation, which then resulted into 3 days of craziness with press. I remember fainting in front of a photographer, and I remember the aftermath of Festen as being very complicated because doing that movie finalized something for me. So I remember making the decision of turning my back to something that I really loved in Dogma and walking somewhere else, which I didn't know what way would be, and feeling slightly lost. The memory of making the movie is obviously colored by the success. So I like to say that Festen was one of the easiest movies to make because it was like there were so many decisions already made. The artistic decisions was limited. The canvas was very narrow because of the rules of Dogma 95, and that was liberating. Somehow. I know that can sound ironic, that when you limit your possibilities, it can actually be liberating, but that's how it works in the world of art. Having said that, I had all the usual problems, actors and actresses and time constraints and lack of money and blah, blah, blah. It was difficult, but it was great fun. It was interesting because Dogma 95 became sort of a digital revolution. We were some of the first movies shot digitally, and that came out of financial restraint. We could not afford shooting on film. So I had a meeting with Lars von Trier, and we said, what are we going to do? And we decided, okay, if we end on Academy 35, it's good enough. I don't think we feel we've broken the rule, but we've bent the rule a little bit. Thinking of The Hunt, it brings me back to the origin of it. There was this children's psychiatrist who lived in my street, who came knocking on my door. I didn't know the guy. And he said, you did Celebration? I said, yeah, or Festen. And he said, so there's another film you have to do. Fine. And he gave me a stack of papers, and I shut the door and I tossed the papers, or I put them on a shelf. Then some years later, I needed a psychiatrist. I thought, well, I'm going to go down the street and talk to this guy, but maybe I should read these papers first. And then the life of all these innocently accused men exploded into my face. And I thought, well, yeah, I have to do this movie. I have to do the antithesis of Festen. And I started working on it. With that movie, I'm thinking a lot about Mads Mikkelsen, because this was our first collaboration, hopefully not the last. I changed the character very drastically 3 weeks before, 1 month before shooting. It was a strong sort of Robert De Niro and Deer Hunter kind of blacksmith. And I made him into a kindergarten teacher, very humble with glasses, and he was just game for that. He was like, yeah, let's do it. And he did it so movingly and so bravely. A person quite close to me had called me and said that I was going to win. The film was going to win. I was actually surprised when I saw Mads winning, but I was happily surprised because I thought he really deserved it. And I couldn't come anyway because my wife was giving birth to my child just those days. But that was amazing. I was very proud. Well, Matthias Schoenaerts invited me to make this movie. He sent me the script, and I remember reading it, feeling my heart starting to pound. You know, I normally go through this process of trying to reject scripts that I don't write myself. And if they're strong enough to survive that rejection and come back to me, then I start investigating it. This one was really powerful and touched me, especially because of him, I think. Imagining him in that boat, something that really moved me. I remember from shooting this film a lot of fantastic, great memories. I remember the silence for 2 minutes in respect for these sailors. I remember the heat of the studio in which we shot the submarine, where they had to freeze. I remember the loss of an actor who died from us, which was really tragic and who we will be missing, Mikael Nyqvist. I remember shooting the last day with Colin Firth and Max von Sydow. I remember the standing ovations for both of them. Max von Sydow, towards the end of his career, being clapped all the way to his trailer by people in the street and everything. It was beautiful. And I remember feeling a bit like a boy in a chocolate factory, whereas Dogma was a film with no sugar at all. This was a chocolate factory. Watching 200 men and women being super competent at all the time. It was about safety divers and about cables in water, and it was about actors in cables in water. All of that technical stuff which I thought was amazing. That was an interesting form. I like that.